Hi, this is Ashley Victoria Robinson coming to you from the Popverse, a virtual realm created by Read Pop. And I am so happy today to continue our reality television and our Love is Blind journey. We are joined today by an incredible designer, a star of season 4, fan favorite, and honestly, all around awesome guy. Please put your hands together for Brett Brown. Hi, Brett. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good afternoon. Yeah, how's it going?
So I want to ask, because your public image is very put together, cool guy in the city, crushing it. What is your secret origin story? How did you become the Brett Brown that we know and love today?
Wow. You said secret origin story. I thought you were about to say, like, what is your superpower or something like that.
What is your secret superpower? Can you fly?
I wish I could. If I did, I'd be somewhere. I'd be back in Japan. Me and my wife, we were just in Japan a couple of weeks ago and had an amazing trip. So it was a lot of fun. So, but to answer your question, you said, what is my origin of my, how did you word it again?
I said, what is your secret origin to becoming the Brett Brown that we know and love? No pressure. Tell me your entire life story.
Yeah. Well, one, it's very flattering. That if that's kind of the perception of me, it's very put together, and that's very, very flattering. So thank you. I would actually say, without getting too deep and like you said, telling my whole life story, I'd say honestly, it's growing up without a lot. I feel like when you grow up lacking a lot of things, in my case, it was finances, and I didn't have a lot of friends, and just family situation from a upbringing standpoint wasn't the best. Not because my parents are bad parents, but just because of the situation that we just so happened to be in poverty. And I think that kind of made me grow up really fast and really made me become very self-sufficient and really understand that, like, hey, if I want to live the life I want to live, like, I can't sit back and say, well, why didn't somebody teach me this? Why didn't somebody tell me about this? I really have to take full control and ownership of my life to be the person I want to be. And I think I made a decision pretty early on that I knew who I wanted to be and did the work to be that person. And I can say it today, I am exactly the person that I want to be at this point in my life. So I'm happy about that.
I think that's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me in an interview. I think my career has peaked. I don't know how to go. Like, that's so amazing and so lovely. So let me ask you a very dull follow-up question, but how did that transit into your love of design? Were you drawing and painting? Were you a creative kid? How did that lead this?
Great question. Yeah. So growing up, I would say I was a creative kid. All I did was draw. And about when I was going in middle school, I say going into 8th grade, and I touched on some of this in Love is Blind. Like, unfortunately, my family fell in some hard times, and we literally, over the summer, lost everything. I mean, our house, car, lights, water, all of that. And we had to move almost overnight to my grandmother's old house. And I finished high school, where the city that we moved to, a small town called Rigawood. And up until that point, like, I was really into drawing, but I feel like when that happened, I lost contact with all my friends that I had from kindergarten. We didn't have social media back then.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a lot of people's phone numbers because we all lived in the same neighborhood. I just ride up to their front door on my bike and like, hey, what's up? So I literally lost everything at like 10 or 11 years old. And I didn't have a lot of friends through high school. So I feel like all the time, it really just created the space for me just to really double down on like my art and creativity. So I didn't have any friends. I didn't play any sports in high school. All I did was draw. And when you become very driven and you really enjoy doing something and you have the time to do it, I think, you'll get really good at it. So I feel like that was really the start of everything. Was that unfortunate environment really created the space for me to just hone in on my craft. Was really the start of it.
If we were to get in a time machine and go back to adolescent Brett, what did you draw a lot in your sketchbook? Was there a character? Was there a theme? Was it sneakers already?
No sneakers. I didn't start drawing sneakers until 2016. 16 when I lived in Miami. But as a kid, one, Dragon Ball Z. I was a
Yes.
huge Dragon Ball Z fan. Dragon Ball Z. Oh man, because I used to like record the episodes like on VHS tapes, and
Hmm.
like I would sometimes like pause frames to just draw, some of the scenes, and like I would, search all over the internet to find images and pictures, Goku, Vegeta, and I did a lot of anime drawings, but then I'd say in high school I started doing more like portraits, like
Hmm.
photoreal, highly detailed, like drawings like that. So I've done a little bit of everything. Draw my own characters in like a Dragon Ball Z style. And it's funny, I think I probably have every drawing that I've done since middle school, like in a cardboard box. I kept everything.
You got to auction that off. You'll make so much money.
Yeah,
Brett's origin collection.
yeah, yeah.
How does the love of art, design, Dragon Ball Z, how does that lead you to Nike? We teased a little bit about the sneakers before, but what's the one-to-one there?
So that was really an interesting journey because one, like Nike or whatever, like that was never the goal. That
Hmm.
was never like, hey, I want to work at, Nike. I want to be a footwear designer. That was never a part of the plan. It just kind of organically happened because I grew up drawing. I went to school for a couple of years to learn 3D animation. It was just like a trade school, so I just have a diploma in 3D animation from a school in Raleigh, North Carolina. Then I was in video games industry for about 10 years as a 3D artist. And
Hmm.
then during that time, I was working at a startup game company down in Miami, and I was overworked, underpaid, not feeling creative, not really feeling inspired. And I started designing shoes, which is a suggestion from my girlfriend at the time, just as a creative outlet. And I'd always had an interest in, design, footwear design, all that kind of stuff, but I never like connected the dots until she just mentioned it one day. And then I started just drawing shoes. And then I loved my designs. And then I was like, hey, I am a 3D artist. I know how to do 3D models and renders of my designs. So I started doing that. And then that just kind of snowballed into a career change that I really didn't anticipate.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so you were in video games. What are your video game hot takes besides underpaid overwork, which I think, fortunately or unfortunately, we all kind of know about the people who make our favorite games now.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of love for not only video games but the video games industry.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very, a lot of people play games. Not a
Hmm.
lot of people make games and know
Hmm.
people that make the games and know what it's like to be on the other side of the development cycle.
Yeah.
So even though I don't make games now, I'm still very much plugged in with what's out. I'm playing Final Fantasy VII, the Rebirth right now. Um,
Good
yeah,
choice.
yeah.
What kind of creativity do you have in your life now outside of your professional endeavors? Are we still drawing or are you into something else?
Once I learned 3D, which
Hmm.
would have been starting in 2005, I I pretty much stopped drawing. And anything, if I drew something, it was really only to quickly ideate something to
Hmm.
bring into 3D. So outside of 3D and footwear, all that kind of stuff, I love photography. I started doing photography in 2020 during COVID,
Hmm.
and I've kind of turned it into a whole thing. I love to shoot. I love to travel photography. I love doing portraits. I love lighting. I love photography is my thing now outside of anything related to my career.
Okay, you said you love lighting. I've never heard anybody say that before, including lighting. What about lighting piques your interest like that? That's so fascinating.
Really?
Yeah.
No one's ever said I love
No one's
lighting.
ever said they love lighting. Tell me about it.
Really? It's a skill. I mean,
Hmm.
if you think about, like, there's many things that go into making a good picture, or if you watch a movie, that the work that goes into setting the stage to make you have whatever emotional reaction or whatever that they want to convey. um it's just fun to kind of think about like, hey, like here's a person, blank canvas. How do I want to portray them? Do I want to use color? Do I want to highlight features in their face? Do I want to put a softbox? Do I want to have it a glam shot? Like it's really fun kind of thinking about what do I want to do here? And then once
Hmm.
you think about what you want to do, it's like, okay, well, do I have my softbox? Oh no, should I do a highlight? Okay, there. Is the shadow too dark over here? Like it's like technical and artistic. And I think doing 3D is technical and
And
artistic because
artistic.
you gotta know the software, you gotta keep up with new versions of software. So I think lighting is not just artistic, hey, I want it to look like this. It's also, okay, where do I need to put the light? What's the power setting? Do I need to use a color gel? All those things. So it's a really creative technical thing, and I love it.
Now everybody's going to be petrified that you're going to be looking at their Instagram account and saying there's no beauty light on their eyes. What are they even doing with this composition? It must be why your Instagram is so well curated. And we did get to see on Love is Blind a little bit of your turn as a photographer. So I would love to just ask a little bit about the show. You're kind of a fan favorite. You got the Prince Charming edit, as people love to
It's
say.
charming.
Did you know that people were going to love you this much?
No, no, because I don't think about people and how they're gonna perceive me. Like I'm just me,
Hmm.
and whatever that is, take it or leave it. So I never thought of myself or never really. Well, I guess when you film that, you pretty much have to sit on it. Well, you're waiting almost a year for it to come
Hmm.
out, and we don't know the edit. We don't know what's going to be put together. We don't know how it's going to be put together. So, leading up to it coming out, like I had a little bit of anxiety, like, man, like I don't know, like what did I say at this point? Like I wonder if
Uh-huh.
they're gonna put that together. Oh man, if they put this together, could this make me look bad?
Hmm.
Like you just don't know. Um Thankfully, I think I'm very fortunate that when it came out, I think I one, it's weird seeing yourself on TV if you've never like, not many people get that opportunity to be like, oh, Netflix, oh, here's the screen. Wow, that's there I am, front and center when I'm scrolling through the things. Like that's a really weird and unique thing to go through. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm authentically myself. So I'm just happy that if I'm a fan favorite and people like me, I can't complain.
People on the show like you too, you were noted as being a role model. You're someone that people look up to. Does that bring a sense of responsibility, even though obviously your season of the show is now behind you and you're moving on with real life?
Hmm. Great question. Great question. I feel like that's another layer that I didn't anticipate, going into the show. But I think in my season, I think I was the oldest guy
Mhm.
there. Um, so I think, naturally when you're kind of like the senior there, not that I'm old, but
You're
I
so
was the
ancient,
oldest.
Brett.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not old, but I was the oldest,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that was there. And I think that there's some things with having a little bit more experience on
Mhm.
you, and you're such a unique experience with younger castmates. But yeah, I don't know, so much of my perception and how people viewed me, whether it's other castmates, has been like, wow, really.
Mhm.
It's humbling.
What have you learned about relationships and maybe how you relate to people in a post Love is Blind world?
Ooh, relationships and relating to people in a post Love is Blind world. I feel like the biggest thing I've learned about relationships, and I think the process of Love is Blind really um, like proves it, is just the importance of communication. I
Mhm.
think really all the pods and everything before you propose, all it is communication. If you
Yeah.
can't communicate, you won't you won't get there because you don't have anything else to fall back on. Like, oh my gosh, you look so good, and you don't have anything else to fall back on. And I think that in normal dating and this is things that I've experienced before, before going on Love Is Blind. It's like there's times where things never really got to where they probably could have been because of communication, whether it's me not opening up or kind of creating that space, or for the other person to be the same way and just never really kind of digging deep into to who I am. So I think that's something that in marriage now I try to always like make it a thing, like we have to talk. Like if you're feeling some kind of way, if I'm feeling some kind of way, we have to be comfortable enough with each other to talk. Otherwise, just be making a bunch of assumptions, and then small thing happens one day and then you blow up. And it's like, well, babe, if you just would have talked to me about this, not to say that that's happened, but you get the point.
I do. Now, you mentioned earlier you're in your travel era. So other than Japan, what is next on your list? Where's your next dream destination?
Great question. So I used to live in Miami. I lived in Miami for 3 years, from like 2014 to the beginning of the end of 2017. To the beginning of 2017. Anyway,
what is
and I was
time?
there for 3 years. Yeah, I know. I was there for 3 years, and I worked so much. I never made it out to like the islands. I never made it out to like Jamaica, Bahamas, all of those. So I feel like now that we're, it's summertime, and granted, it's always like summertime over there.
Yeah.
I would love to make it to the islands, because never been over there. I love the food over there. I love the types of drinks. I love a good Mai Tai, etc. So, yeah.
Is a Mai Tai, is that your go-to drink when you're in Miami?
No, mojitos.
Oh, nice.
Mojito. Specifically a mango one. I love mangoes.
They're the best. Wow. Wow.
Dried mangoes, like literally.
That's an airplane snack too.
Yeah.
I feel like you've dropped so many great nuggets in the time that we've chatted. Like my mind is exploding. I'm here for the Brett Brown advice book that's going to come out at some point in the future, we're hoping. But before we leave, I would love to know, what is your advice to aspiring creatives who might be watching?
Ooh, great question. I think in this day and age, where a lot of people, like, because there's so much information, social media, you get to see what everybody else is doing. It's really easy to compare yourself and say, oh, my work isn't good enough, or my music isn't good enough, or whatever it is that you create, because you have full visibility to what everybody else is doing. You could put out the most amazing, I don't know, whether it's a photo or 3D rendering or whatever, and I don't know, for whatever reason, algorithms, people don't see it, and you can look and say, man, it only got like 100 likes. Man, I guess this means this is some trash. And then you see somebody else put something out that may not be as good, in all honesty, but for whatever reason, it has much more engagement. It's easy to look at that and say, well, I guess that means like that what I'm doing isn't good, which is 1000% wrong. But it's understandable, I feel like, why somebody could draw that conclusion. But I think the biggest thing is just not being afraid to put yourself out there, not really getting tied to engagement numbers, because it's all subjective. And one, we don't know who's paying for followers. There's people that pay. Listen, there are some people that I follow that have like, more followers than me, and I'm like, yeah, man, if me and you walk down the street, nobody know who you are. Like, come on. We know you don't got 2 million followers. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I feel like for me, like when you were asking about going from, or like getting into like my role now, it all started on social media. I just started designing shoes. Yeah. I posted it on social media. My Instagram page, I made a new Instagram page specifically for my footwear design work. It never got above 200 followers. No post ever got above 100 likes. Yet that Instagram page got me a job at Cole Haan up in New Hampshire, which led me to Nike. And that started because the guy that does 3D at Cole Haan sent me a DM. Love your work. Like, are you looking for opportunities? This small Instagram page with less than 200 followers opened the door to that, which opened the door to where I'm at now. If I was paying attention to engagement numbers, I would have been like, nobody likes my work. My work isn't good. Because there are other people that were doing similar things that had way more engagement than I did. And funny enough, when I worked at Cole Haan, about a year into it, I was promoted to a manager. And there was a guy who I followed who did 3D footwear stuff like I did. There was a guy that I followed when I was just posting my work. Again, this is how crazy the world goes. Fast forward a year, I get to Cole Haan. I'm in a manager position. We have an open position for a 3D footwear designer, and I'm interviewing this guy.
That guy.
So again, you can't pay attention to numbers. Be comfortable in your craft.
And read your DMs, I think, is the other message.
Read your DMs. Read your DMs. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us in the Popverse today. I hope we'll have you back very, very soon.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Again, I think Brett really needs to write a book on life advice. I think I need it. I think you need it. I think he needs it. I think there's a lot that we all can learn from Love is Blind and Brett specifically. We hope we will have him back. Make sure that you're following him everywhere. And for more Love is Blind and more, honestly, reality TV goodness, be sure that you are visiting thepopverse.com, where we are celebrating the very best in TV, movies, and comics each and every single day. I have been your video host and producer, Ashley Victoria Robinson, here in the Popverse, which, by the way, is a virtual realm created by Pop, in case you forgot. While you're here, why not click subscribe, click the little bell so you never miss a single thing that we're getting up to in the Popverse, whether it be Love is Blind related or otherwise. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.